I have 10 scenarios from Full Metal Jacket, from the craziest drill sergeant moments to the harrowing death scenes. Fred, you're going to guess whether they're realistic or not. If you get 8 or more correct, you get a Mate Night token, which can be spent on any challenge for me of your choosing in a future episode.
Okay.
So question 1. The military press lied about the number of kills in their paper for propaganda. Was this realistic or not?
Realistic.
It is not unusual for governments to manipulate media and information during wartime for propaganda purposes, so this scenario is plausible, realistic.
Nice, let's go.
So that's kind of I thought I'd start off with a nice easy one. Keep track of your score, because I'm not going to. All right, and no fibs.
I think I got 8.
No fibs, because
is that realistic or
not? Question 2.
Yeah.
During the battle for Hue, was the urban environment realistic or not?
Yes.
Hue had no tall apartment buildings, and they were packed together closely. The buildings which featured in this scene were sparse and taller. This was a result of these scenes being shot in London, and so whilst the overcast sky was accurate, the depiction was not realistic. Right. Not looking good, Freddie. Yeah, so that was shot in London.
That's where that is interesting.
And the tall buildings and sparseness, right, which is why the sniper had such an advantage, was not a thing in Hue. Right, so you wouldn't have just had a sniper with like a massive courtyard with no cover and just one tall building. It was all like little huts and shorter buildings. So, very important thing that they got kind of wrong there, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think when you said what was the question? How realistic was?
No, we're not going back. No, we're not going back.
All right. I'm going to leave a comment.
I'm the quiz master.
I'm going to leave a comment about
I'm the
that
quiz
question.
master. During the battle for Hue, the soldiers would continuously fire their weapons on automatic without aiming. Was this realistic or not?
So in the film, they would do this. Was it realistic? Without aiming. It seems pretty counterintuitive to do that, but I'm going to go realistic.
The spray and pray shooting style, where soldiers fire their weapons without aiming carefully, did occur in some combat situations, especially during intense firefights, and so this is realistic.
Nice, let's go.
You're on 2 out of 3. Question 4. One guy was seen unloading bullets from a helicopter onto civilians. Was this realistic or not?
Well, I reckon the civilian part maybe, but they're in so many films. Did they have the things really? Did they really have machine guns coming out of helicopters? Not realistic.
There were instances of civilian casualties during the Vietnam War due to mistaken fire. There were also, unfortunately, civilian casualties as a direct result of indiscriminate fire, and so I have gone with realistic.
Out of planes?
Unfortunately, Fred, that's the answer. So, I noticed you were focusing on that. I don't know, is the honest answer.
Yeah, you're probably right.
We'll go with realistic anyway.
You've done the research.
It was in Apocalypse Now, so... Mm-hmm. When some soldiers were shot, they would lie on the ground shaking. Was this realistic or not?
Not realistic.
If an individual is under circumstances conducive to shock, they may suffer from involuntary spasms. Being shot falls under this remit. And so this is realistic. So how many do you want at the minute?
I've not got 8.
Oh, no, really? Okay. Question 6.
Got to keep going.
Soldiers were trading goods and services with locals in Vietnam. Was this realistic or not?
Realistic.
During the Vietnam War, soldiers often engaged in bartering with local Vietnamese civilians, exchanging various items such as cigarettes, food, clothing, and other goods for services or local products. This practice was a common way for soldiers to obtain items not readily available through the military supply chains, and so this is realistic. Question 7.
Yes.
The Marines marched to a Mickey Mouse song through the war-torn street. Was this realistic or not?
Realistic.
This scenario is more likely a creative choice for the film rather than an accurate depiction of military behavior during Vietnam, and so it is not
more
realistic.
Likely.
But I'm the quizmaster, and I'll deduct points. Question 8. A camera crew spent considerable time interviewing members of Marines in an active war zone. Was this realistic or not?
Realistic.
Whilst documentary filmmakers would venture into Vietnam, they would not conduct interviews in an active war zone, as this would be unsafe and impractical. Fred, as such, this was not realistic. Right. Question 9. The drill sergeant screamed in the faces of recruits. Was this realistic or not?
Realistic?
Ronald Lee Ermey, who played the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket, was actually a career drill sergeant himself, and so famously, most of his lines were his own insults. Although it certainly was the case that drill sergeants varied in intensity, this demeanour can be considered realistic. The final question, question 10.
Oh, this is for 8.
This is for 8. The drill sergeant was allowed to strike Private Joker in the privates during the Vietnam War. Was this realistic?
Oh. Not realistic.
Assaulting an individual is illegal in any capacity, included in the military and including the drill sergeant. However, unsurprisingly, the further back in time you look, the more they were allowed to get away with. Supposedly, during Vietnam, depending on your military branch, unit, and commander, there might even be guidelines in place regarding how to physically discipline recruits. And so the answer is
Grey area.
realistic.
I would say a lot of grey area.
So I think that was a 7.
Maybe a 7.
You just missed the 8 there, unfortunately. Thanks for taking our listeners on such an exciting ride. And I got 4.5 minutes of content out of all of that.
Great facts that were presented there.
Yeah, it was quite interesting to research, to be honest with you. I will be honest. The integrity of the quiz and how thorough it was and the whole definition of realistic and things, you know, I imagine people won't be very happy with afterwards, and we'll get a lot of it.
I'm not happy with it. And I'm the only one.
But I'm the quiz master, and so they can shut
Fred.
up.
I'm Fred. I'm the quizzy.
I'm Fred. I know more about the Vietnam War.
I am
than vets
writing
do.
a strongly worded letter to my MP about the integrity of that quiz.